guest coming on, Clinton. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do have a guest.
And the guest is James Dwyer.
The guest is James Dwyer. I think he might be with us now.
Yes, I am.
James Dwyer, tell us who you work for, because I can never pronounce it properly.
No worries. I work for Engel and Volkers here in Halifax.
Right. So have you learned German since you started working for that company? Is it German?
Yeah, well, German, Google Translate's been a really good help as well. So, it's been interesting for sure.
Excellent. I digress. Clinton has some questions for you.
Well, we're really curious about the Halifax market here and what's going on in real estate. You know, we reported kind of on our last show that there was a couple of Mondays ago, we're talking maybe a month ago or so, and there were only about 30 or so new listings. But I've heard through the grapevine there have been more listings coming up on online here in Halifax and maybe across the province the last few weeks.
Yeah, it really kind of ramped up, I'd say, about a week, 2 weeks ago. Essentially, once the kind of clock clicked over from April to April 1st, April 2nd, things started picking up. I do say, though, from current inventory levels, we're still below 2019 numbers for like month-over-month increases. So inventory is leading the way as our number one issue right now.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we've got a bit of a population boom happening on the new construction side. Things are picking up considerably there, but their cost of construction has gone up quite a bit as well. So we've kind of got a bit of a lot of pressure on that entry level purchase price right now, with the inability to replace stock with new stock. So essentially, we're just going to be going through that resale market.
I think that's really interesting. And are you seeing first-time home buyers buying what we consider a starter home? There was kind of that trend the last couple of years that first-time home buyers were buying kind of their dream home. But as we know, some people are kind of forced down, and I mean suppressed maybe a little bit by the cost of borrowing. So are expectations kind of being leveled out a little bit now?
They're starting to. I mean, with interest rates where they are right now, and what we're seeing with the buyers, I mean, they're still getting in multiple offer situations, very reminiscent of last winter and the winter before. But this time around, those sale price, those over asking and such, is much, much, much lower. So it's definitely become much more conservative approach from the buyers, as well to they're really keen on identifying price drops in the marketplace, as that seems to pick up a lot of activity on those particular homes.
As far as the homes go, are you seeing a lot of renos? What type of I guess era homes are we talking? Are we talking circa 80s stuff, or is it a whole lot of everything?
It's a little bit of everything. Essentially, the classic semi-detached house, the 1960s style bungalows, the older style townhouses, that sort of stuff.
Interesting.
What part of town are hotter than others?
Right now, I would say you're looking at pretty much all on the Dartmouth side doing quite well right now. Timberley's also doing really well. The Peninsula in pockets is doing quite strong. Like South End particularly, we're not seeing, crazy numbers there, but it's definitely holding really well. So I haven't really seen or identified an area that seems to be underperforming at the moment.
That's interesting. So it's what I'm hearing is kind of like across the board. Are you feeling like the market is becoming more balanced? Like you said, there's maybe the offers are not going as much over ask, and people are getting more excited about price drops. Like, do you think it's becoming more of a balanced real estate market between buyers and sellers?
I do, to a certain extent. I mean, there's been a lot of changes over the last year on the buying side, whether it's interest rates, foreign buyer bans, anti-flipping legislations, those sort of things. So, the buying pool has shrunk considerably, and I think it's kind of in a good space where what you're dealing with right now are buyers that are looking for homes, not investment properties. So it's really addressing that housing side. On the selling side, because of the increasing in population, we're not getting that turnover, whether it's from older demographics who seem to be, sticking it out in their houses longer. So that supply side is equally lowered. And also, too, I do believe that what we see in last year, like we broke records on inventory numbers in that hot market. I think all that extra inventory that we would normally see in this year was sold last year. So we're kind of having that, peak in inventory, and then now we're in that drop phase before it starts kind of falling.
Interesting.
But because there's less inventory and because we do have less buyers, the market is behaving a little bit more of a balanced market, favoring the sellers a little bit more, but nothing like what it was over the last 2 years.
How about all those buyers that were coming from Ontario, Quebec, all of that stuff? Is that dried up pretty much? I'm sure there's a trickle of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that standard kind of movement when it comes to like the military transfer program that we kind of have happen here in the spring. But yeah, what we've seen over the last 2 years, you know, the COVID exodus out of Ontario stuff has kind of come to an end right now. And I'm curious to know now with the numbers, you know, how many are sticking around.
Yeah. We're hearing some reports that there are listings that are sitting, you know, 30, 60, 90, 120 days.
Yep.
What do you think's going on with those? Like, you know, if there have been some price drops and they're not getting offers, do you think that there's just, you know, buyers that are sitting on the sidelines, or are there issues with the, you know, pricing of that listing, do you think?
Well, I mean, you know, on a broader scale, I would definitely look at it and say to you, like, I'm finding the kind of mid to upper mid range pricing. So think of it like your 600 to kind of like 800 or 900 range. That seems to be an overabundance of inventory at the moment. And initially my thought process was that, you know, the first time home buyer starting the family now, have outgrown the starter home and now looking for that next piece, you know, you'd think that would put extra inventory into the space at the entry level stuff, but they're just not making those moves. So the question then becomes, you know, is it affordability or, you know, uncertainty that we may be seeing economically, that sort of stuff kind of moving forward. But I think overall the strength in it right now seems to be you know, a very localized market with a sprinkling of immigration in it.
When it comes to new home construction, new home builds, which areas or I suppose there's probably just pockets of that around the community. Yeah. Essentially, what you know, when it comes to new construction, you know, the biggest setbacks on their side is, you know, just trying to get things approved and get things moving forward. We're starting to see the city reacting in a positive way in that respect. But you know, yeah, you've got pockets. I mean, Newton, Spryfield, Bedford West, Lucasville, just to mention a couple of them to you, and they're doing quite well. But again, you know, they have a little bit of a supply issue on the pricing side for them, so that's been a challenge. Over the last 6 months, I've seen a big shift in strategy from the builders. I've seen some builders do their own financing. I've seen, you know, cash incentives for purchasing, that sort of stuff, and to make the purchases a bit more lucrative for the buyers. Well, James, listen, we appreciate your time. We know you're busy. Let's have you back on Mortgage 101 soon.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, pal. Take care. That's James Dwyer.
Bye-bye.
That's James Dwyer. And who is it?
Engel and Volkers.
Engel and Volkers. I can never say
right
that.
here in Halifax.
That's right. I call him Halifax real estate agent.
Well, you know what? He's a great guy, and I've actually done a lot of transactions with him.
Yep.
And you know what? I have great feedback, and he's so, you know, generous to give his time. To come on our show. So
I think when it comes to real estate agents, it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough for anybody when they're new in any industry.
Let me tell you, it is a tough grind for realtors right now.
Yeah.
I would not want to be a realtor.
No,
you have to have very thick skin, I think, to kind of weather the storm over the last, you know, 3 or 4 years, let's be honest. People thought it was very easy to be a realtor, and it was not.
They do. The impression is they make all kinds of money, and in some cases they do. That's all well and good. But they're just cashing checks, and it's easy. It's an easy job. It ain't an easy job. It's very difficult.
I'm going to tell you, it is a very, very tough job. And, you know, I think there's a lot of really amazing realtors in our city. And you know what? There's some ones that are not that great. And I think it's like that in every profession, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, but there is this misconception that realtors just go and open the door and they make a contract and then they get paid.
Yeah.
No, these realtors are putting in like 40 plus hours on probably every single file that they're working on. Yeah. It is a grind.
What should people look for when they're looking for a realtor?
You know what? I think it's, you know, date a couple, you know, maybe it's like go for a coffee with 2 or 3 of them and see if it's going to be a good fit.
Right.
When somebody asked me to give a realtor recommendation, we work with all kinds of realtors. I first kind of think about, where are you looking to buy, and does the realtor work and live in that area?
Right, yeah.
I think that's very, very important. Right. I also think about fit. Like, is it going to be like a similar age, or are they looking for someone with more experience, or are they looking for someone that's going to be younger and hungrier? You know, not every realtor is for everyone. And you might have a really good experience with one realtor and a really terrible experience with another realtor. It doesn't necessarily mean they're good or bad. It's the fit is just really important. When I'm doing mortgage financing, I might spend 1 hour with my clients. I'm working on the file sometimes like 5 hours. You know, it's transactional in a way. Although we do think we have a very good relationship with our clients, and we do. And you know, we have a lot of repeat and referral. But when you're with a realtor, you're spending some real serious time. So you better like them, and you better think that they're going to work for you because, at the end of the day, this is your biggest purchase.
Have you seen deals fall apart just simply because realtors did a bad job?
Oh, every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Is that right?
And I may say every day we're not getting deals every day, but every month currently.
Give me something typical that can break down because of a bad realtor, if you can.
I'll just take a deep breath right now.
Okay.
That was me taking a deep breath, like namaste.
Yeah.
I see some really questionable things in the listing cut.
What's a listing cut?
So that's like the MLS listing cut. So they'll have like
cut,
things in the description to be like hobby farm. This is a fixer upper, or they're like things that are really kind of put red flags. I'm all about disclosure, so don't get me wrong. But just because a property has a barn on it doesn't mean it's a hobby farm.
Right.
Lenders don't like financing farms.
Right.
The end.
Yeah.
I also see some real questionable things sometimes in the purchase and sale agreement. I'm not speaking for any realtors. I'm not speaking for the Nova Scotia Real Estate Commission or Association of Realtors. But some of the clauses, I feel concerned for people. Like, if you have a question about a clause, you should probably talk to your broker or talk to a lawyer to make sure it's going to be legally binding. And sometimes,
what would a clause be, like a right of way or something like that? Or?
Not even things like that. It just some weird things end up into the agreement, and that may be by the recommendation of the client,
right? Or
it might be in the recommendation of the realtor. I would say you need to do some pushback.
Yeah.
Just don't take what you're given. Like, make sure that all the I's are being dotted and all the T's are being crossed, because I sometimes find like there can be some situations where there are some gray areas, and I've seen things in the agreement that end up terminating the deal.
But I think also you want to be reasonable as well. You don't want to you don't want to be confrontational just for the sake of confrontation. And there is a way to approach grievances in a civilized way.
There
right?
certainly are, and that's why I think as a buyer you always need to have your own representation. The seller is paying your realtor.
Right.
Doing a double-ended deal, I would never recommend that.
Is that right? Yeah.
I would never do it myself.
Yeah.
And, I think you need to have representation for the biggest purchase. And it doesn't matter if you bought one home or 20 homes. I think having a realtor that's going to represent your interest, whether you're a buyer or your interest as a seller, I think is really important.
So if you showed up at somebody's door and they were selling the listing and you would suggest, well, I'm going to come back, but I'm going to come back with a realtor then.
Yes.
Is that right?
100%.
Yeah.
And that realtor is going to be, biased to you and represent your best interest.
Okay. We got lots. We have lots more to talk about. We'll be right back with Mortgage 101.
If you've liked what you've heard and you want to learn more, feel free to visit us online at teamclinton.ca.